What we have here is the Starship Eternia, and this is from the new Adventures of He-Man after the original Masters of the Universe show, starting around 1989 or 1990. It's like a reboot of He-Man where he's taken from his current time period and brought to the future, so he had more of these spaceship type things. Had this big playset here, Starship Eternia. I believe this was the biggest vehicle slash playset of that series. There's a few pretty close, but I think this was the big one. And if my research is right, the retail price was actually $50 for this thing. Even back in 1990, this was a pretty pricey item. Hopefully my parents got it on clearance. This is my actual one I had because I kind of missed the boat on the Masters of the Universe original line. And always watched that old cartoon, but the only thing that had toys was the new Adventures of He-Man. So I had this, I liked the ship and everything, but mostly that toy line I didn't really like so much, just because it was kind of a substitute of the real Masters of the Universe toys that we could never find. But the cool thing about this isn't that it just stays in this Millennium Falcon shape. You can actually take it apart and put it into all these different configurations, all these different kind of play set looking things outside of just the spaceship. And I can't remember if it would transform in the TV show, but with the comic it came with, or one of the figures did, you could see they were flying in the ship and they even transformed it into one of those configurations, kind of as a base. Let's transform Starship Eternia into ground base battle station. So it's kind of giving the function, you know, an existence in the world there it was trying to create with Skeletor and his new enemies against He-Man and his new allies. And as we can see, I'm missing the kind of windshield, and I think maybe there's several stickers may have faded off in between here, and the electronics on the top here don't work anymore. This would turn on, but it seems to shot, but it was just a very annoying siren sound, but it did have lights. So this is pretty useful just as a play set thing, so we can we'll transform into some of my favorite configurations here just to look at, but just like this, it's just kind of, it's the Millennium Falcon. You just kind of really only put one figure in to fly this, but there's not really anywhere for other figures to be here. And because this was so modular, it's kind of easy for pieces to fall apart. You know, here's an interior, but you're not really going to get much figure action inside that. So I did manage to find some of the guns. Underneath, here's two guns, which again, you could place in the playset configurations, and we'll see those in different spots here. So we'll just take this apart and see what other configurations we can make with it. So here we have the elevator piece and some of the configurations. You could have the figure come up on the elevator, but on the other end here I am missing there's kind of a handle piece that has kind of fallen off the string. And this bottom part does have wheels. Here we've busted it into pretty much all the individual pieces, and then we can make a new configuration now. Here we have the vertical kind of battle station appearance here. It's so tall I can't even really get it in frame here. We'll get some different shots of it. Probably one of the standard ones I would have it in as a kid, just so I could kind of have the figures like standing on it and things. And it does have an elevator. Again, I'm missing the little tab that would help you pull that, and then you're supposed to kind of string it through one of these too, where this is going to keep the string from falling out of your grip. These are kind of customizable how you want to do it more than specific configurations. And gun turns on the top. You can even just take the ship part just off and kind of cap it. You just kind of have a spaceship, you know, as an external piece. These guns can come off and go on places at the top where there's spots for them, so you can have extra weapons going on there, and the figure is kind of using the elevator to go up. And just kind of an interesting play set like this, where it can do different configurations and become, you know, a play set like a living space or a base instead of just the spaceship appearance. Here's one of the crazier kind of configurations where you do the horizontal on the ground tube instead of a vertical tube, because inside the elevator actually has kind of a seat, so a figure could sit there, get pulled forward like they were kind of launching out, kind of a subway kind of thing, and you could configure it so the tube is even longer, so they had a real trip there to get to the other side. Just kind of a stranger configuration like this that I would rarely even put it in, but just showing some of the weird ones here. This would probably be my second best configuration after the tower, just because the tower is more stable, and this kind of two-sided one, there's nothing actually connecting the two pieces. It's just sort of leaned against there, but you can see where this kind of gives more surface area on the upper level. But it's not exactly stable since it's not stuck together, but it does kind of give more play area and more imagination for how big this base is. And again, you could just take the spaceship off and use that as a separate piece and then have all that extra room. And the elevator is there, and doesn't really go up all the way. You can use some imagination, but this is a pretty sizable playset. Here's one of the other ships, the Astro Sub. Just to show that it's definitely kind of the bigger piece, but they did have other fairly decently sized spaceships and things, and this can actually connect to this piece in some configurations, so a lot of cool spaceships with this. But again, if you weren't a fan of that new Adventures of He-Man show, the ships weren't all that fun to play with. I just like that there's so many different configurations for this, and even though it wasn't really my favorite show, not that I got to see a lot of the show, but I had the toys, had the figures, and then to have, you know, the top play set for it, definitely got some use anyway, just from it being such a cool, versatile play set. Starship Eternia, pretty awesome piece. Pretty easy to get into some different configurations and have a pretty awesome display for your collection as well, almost in any configuration that you would want. There's plenty more Masters of the Universe figure reviews and things here, and other sort of 90s, 80s toys around, collecting new and old here with me, so stick around and watch the next vid. So I'll see you there.